up and just like start moving around the apartment. And I'll do like some light cleaning before I hit the gym. But if I just like, I found that like once I started working, when I get back like home from work, like even if I was just gonna be like, I'm just gonna go lie down on the bed for a little bit, I'd wake up and I'd be like so groggy. So for me, it just like works to like just to keep moving until I'm like actually ready for bed.
Isn't it crazy that I think your mother too, but like our parents had us like had kids before like our age now, and like you're just like, how do you do this?
Dude, my mother had 3 kids before she was 29. She had
I think
older brother when
I
she
was
was
the
18.
fourth. I was the fourth. My mom was 30, but I was the fourth right there. But yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Can you imagine if I was about to have my 4th child right about now? Oh my God, I'd freaking have no hair. I'd have 0 hair. I don't know how our parents
don't
did
make
it,
fun
man.
of don't make fun of me balding, okay? Come on.
No,
I'm
like
sensitive.
I would legit be like, it would be bad. It would be like Costanza bad.
George Costanza. Can't stand ya. Costanza, can't stand ya.
He got mustard on my face. He sat on my face. He threw my face across the room. Do you see that commercial?
No, that's all right.
It was the what's that guy's name? Something Alexander, Thomas Alexander. Jason Alexander. Yeah, he like, I think it was during the Super Bowl. He had this shirt that had his face on it, and the kid was just like spilling stuff on it, and the mom was like, "Hey, be nice to your Jason Alexander shirt," and he'd like throw it across the room, and it would like get run over by a tractor, and like he would like drop it from like the top of like the Empire State Building, just like crazy stuff. I exaggerate most of that, but he was just like doing terrible, horrible things to Jason Alexander's face.
Was Jason Alexander in the commercial too?
I think he is like towards the end, and the sad part is like I have no idea what the commercial was about.
Wow.
I think it was like insurance, maybe.
that was probably when I turned off the Super Bowl, when I didn't watch like the second half of it.
Probably.
You know what, I'm like, I don't really care for the commercials. I mean, the commercials are always good because they pay so much like darn money to like sponsor it and make those, because like that's the Super Bowl. It's the Super Bowl of commercials too. Some would say, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, man, what's going on, Roman? I got some corned beef brisket cooking on a freaking Wednesday, and it smells way too good. Pro tip, guys. If you don't want to go insane and be hungry for 9 hours, cook your corned beef brisket outside. I'm not doing that, and it might not work as well if you cook it outside, but holy cow, I've been hungry literally for the past, I think, 5 hours now. I think we have 4 more hours left, or 3.5 hours. But oh my gosh, when it's done, you're just so hungry. You just smelled it all day long, and you just can't wait to dive in. Roman, what the heck are we diving into on episode 68, buddy?
We're talking about sugar consumption, pre-workout, post-workout. Does it make a difference?
Sugar by System of a Down, really good song? Question mark. If you want a good workout song, Sugar by System. I said Sugar of a Down. System of a Down. Very good song if you need a motivating song. I don't know what they talk about. They just go sugar.
Yes, that sounds about. That's many of System of a Down songs. They have that song Toxicity, don't they?
Yes, Chop Suey, Toxicity, Lonely Day. Lost Hollywood something. There's a lot of good songs. Ariel's, Bound. I used to be a big...
Ariel's is a really good one. I like that one. I'll jam out to that occasionally.
I do want to say before this, Roman, some of these will be opinions. Some of this would be, some stuff that it could relate, could not relate to you. But overall, I want to just say, make sure y'all are doing whatever you want to do. Make sure if this is something you agree with, don't agree with. But we'll probably say, most of the time, we'll say both sides of the story, or all 3 sides, however many different viewpoints there are. But this is a good one, and I think a lot of people are going to learn, and a lot of people are going to understand, and kind of see for themselves too, right? Because it could affect someone else differently. So, Roman, do you want to start?
No, you have like massive
Whoa!
You should start.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Time out. Can we get a tea? I felt like Roman, I even went on Google Scholar. I think from now on, I'm going to stop reading like the Google search notes. Sometimes like if I like need to like know something like quickly, like something that's like, what is a sugar? I'm going to start reading like Google Scholar because it is like so much better. And to my knowledge, most of those are peer reviewed by multiple people, multiple organizations, an organization.
It probably depends on the journal.
Okay. Well, anyways, what is a sugar, guys? Roman mentioned that we're going to talk about like what a sugar is, what it does pre-post workout, and some ideas around it. But sugar, like I guess the original way it came about was the sugarcane plants. It was found naturally in fruits, vegetables, and nuts. Also, the sugarcane plant itself. Also, too, I'm pretty sure we chemically make sugar nowadays too. I think that's why there's so much hype on like real cane sugar, natural cane sugar in some products because some people will say like the raw form might be better for people, or some people want the raw form and they don't want like chemically made sugars. Roman, fact check me if you want to add anything on that real quick.
Yeah, I don't think we like artificially manufacture sugar, but we do artificially like manufacture like sweeteners. So like aspartame, like high fructose corn syrup, like all those different things.
Cool, got it. So glad Roman's always a fact checker. He knows so much about everything.
God, sometimes.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Honestly, like I think I have some like pretty strong biases with this topic, and I'm like, hopefully I'll be able to admit like where my like weaknesses are and like my shortcomings. But I listened to a podcast recently with Broderick Chavez, and like that dude's got his PhD in like biochemistry or biology. So like, talking to somebody like that, I would be like very cautious about like how I'm talking about like a mechanism or something like that. Whereas, if we were coaching a client, it's like, they like to eat a thing of Skittles, a handful of Skittles before they start their workout, and it makes them like in a good mood, like totally fine, go for it, dude.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying, like in the beginning, where it's like we'll tell you like some information about it, but sometimes you don't need to take it that serious. Sometimes some people do need to take it serious, and also if it in the end goal gets you to the gym, makes you feel better, makes you happier, and helps you get to those goals, then a simple man once told me, "Fuck it, just do it." But pretty much like I just wanted to go over like what a sugar is, sugar digestion. Sugars are digested and absorbed through, and I got my notes on the iPad, so if I look this way, I'm just reading some notes that I wrote down. I'm not looking away because I'm nervous to talk to you guys, but they're broken down. They're pretty much 100% fully under the macronutrient carbohydrate. They're broken down into monosaccharides and absorbed into the bloodstream. Monosaccharides do include simple sugars, glucose, galactose, and fructose. That's from Kaiser. That information is from Kaiser in general. So after all that, Roman, let's get into you talking a little bit more, because I do, obviously I got this next part. So Roman, after like kind of discussing and informing people what sugar is, how it's digested, and you mentioned about the Skittles before the gym, how does sugar make you feel before the gym? Like if you had a pack of Skittles, or if you had cereal, oats with like a lot of brown sugar. Tell us, the listeners, and tell me how that kind of feels for you and like your opinion on it and whatnot.
If I was being honest, I think that its like impact is like pretty nominal. But like from a psychological perspective, I think that's probably where it has like the most benefit, meaning that like I think that there's power to being able to believe in like an idea. So if you believe that having a small pre-workout meal like prevents you from becoming like catabolic or too catabolic, then I don't think that there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I think for the most part, like the jury's still out. So I believe as long as you have, so we should be clear about like certain terms. So catabolism or catabolic is just meaning like the breaking down of certain nutrients. Anabolism or anabolic is just meaning like the like putting of those like nutrients or component pieces back together, like amino acids into a protein, for example. And then metabolism is the sum total of the catabolism and anabolism. So as like a bodybuilder, as a power lifter, for most power lifters, there's some extreme examples, as like maybe a fitness enthusiast in general, the goal is usually muscle growth. It could be strength development that can be through increase in like cross-sectional area of muscle tissue. So one of the things that we do understand about like carbohydrate consumption, and since sugars are a carbohydrate, they are protein sparing. So they essentially allow for like a reduction in the overall like catabolic reactions that are happening to proteins and like the breakdown of those proteins. So like when we exercise, we're actually like breaking our muscles down. That's just one of the side effects of like exercising, and that's totally fine. It's totally okay. It's only when we're on like the extreme ends where we're going like, performing. For example, I watched like a short video on a guy who did like 500 reps on squats after he hadn't been exercising for like months. He had been dumped by his girlfriend, and he like had this very extreme condition where your kidneys like start to shut down. That's like very unlikely to happen. That's for like usually will happen when athletes kind of go overboard. So you're exercising into like the 3, 4, 5, 6 hour range. Very usually like correlated with like high amounts of dehydration. So for the most part, the average person, you're working out for like 1-2 hours at a time, like you're gonna totally be fine. Obviously, you want to try and stay hydrated. It's good to bring a bottle of water or to like slug it in your car if you're nervous about COVID and all that stuff. So hydration is good, but nominal amounts of dehydration, and you exercise like 5 minutes over an hour, you're not gonna get you're not gonna like run into that extreme condition. It's highly unlikely. So now that that's out of the way, carbohydrates are the main fuel source for our muscles to power contractions, and carbohydrates actually yield a greater total energy per unit input than like a fat would, for example, with like the same amount of per unit weight, I believe. So that's usually like glycogen or carbohydrates in general are responsible for those like explosive movements. Think like power clean, like a squat, a deadlift, a bench press, those types of things. Whereas fat consumption is going to be, it's not like 100% fat when you do like long or endurance like activities, but like the longer they are, the higher the ratio of fat burning that goes on. That makes sense.
Yes. So did you find out the secret of fat burning then? Is that what you just correlated to?
So what the secret of fat burning is, jump into your cryogenic chamber. I know all of our listeners out there have it. Make sure you hold your breath during this, and just try to like squeeze out just like a little teeny tiny fart, and you're gonna find like when you walk out of the cryogenic chamber, just like gobs of like unwanted belly and body fat are just gonna fall right off you. They're just gonna turn into like ice crystals and whoop, fall and shatter on the ground.
That is kind of gross. Yeah. So you're saying there's not really too much of effect then when you first, like, if you did just introduce like a big sugar like meal before the gym, then is that what you said, nominal?
So I think the effects are probably like mostly psychological. So the question is, if you were to have like the necessary amounts of carbohydrates, let's say your goal carbohydrate target is for me like a a good goal would be about like 500 grams of carbohydrates in a day if I was bulking. It was a good place to start. Then I could essentially split those up over the 4 meals that I consume, 4 to 5 meals I consume. So I could be between like 100 to 125 grams of carbs per meal. And then I think the general recommendation is to position those around the times of day where you perform the most activity. So if I'm busiest in the morning, for example, because I get up, get ready for work, go to work, I work a construction job, I probably want to position the most of those carbohydrates. So you can take essentially, an example I heard recently, you can take half from your last meal, especially if you're just kind of lounge around in the afternoon, you don't do any type of like combat sports or anything like that. So you can take about half from the last meal. Let's say it was 125 grams of protein. You can take grams of carbohydrate. You take 60 grams from that, and you can kind of sprinkle those into the meals around the times where you're most active. So it could be your first meal to reduce the amount of like catabolism from like, the process of like sleeping overnight, etc. And jump start, like, if you're doing like a hypertrophy program, jump start the anabolism for the day, etc., all that stuff. And so you could add, let's say 30 to the first meal and 30 to the second meal. Let's say things kind of slow down on the construction site, whatever it might be, or on the job site, for around like your third meal, which let's say you eat at 8, noon, 4, and 8. You're in bed by 10. And you're up by, 7 or something like that. That would be kind of like a good breakdown. So my caveat, which I've heard some like evidence to suggest this is the case, having carbohydrates in your like readily available in your bloodstream, not necessarily where your liver has to turn on and like essentially take like glucagon or like glycogen and like force that back into your bloodstream, because I do believe there like is a process that takes time. So if you have carbohydrates like readily available in your bloodstream, like because you ate a pre-workout meal, for example, I believe you can see nominal like slight increases in performance. It probably is nominal if you are hitting like all your carbohydrate targets throughout the rest of the day. But I believe that you could see probably like a modest increase in performance.
Yeah. So so you're telling the listeners and viewers that pretty much anything in life, like any day-to-day activities, you just want to be carved up. Like, you got to walk the dog. Hey, there's 100 grams of carbs. You got to do some work, another 100 grams of carbs. Just get carved up 24/7. What if you just go on a 12-hour eating mania of like carbs like every hour? Would you just feel so pumped up, or at the tipping point you just like fall slim, as they would say in the bodybuilding world, you just like muddle over and you'd look like crap, or you'd just hold so much water that you'd just be gone?
I'm already pretty fluffy, so you can't really tell if I'm like holding water right now because I'm not lean enough where you can like. I'm like on a good day, I'm like, hey, I can still see like an ab or two there. So I'm not really too concerned about that. I think it'd be like much different if you were cutting or like getting like prepping for a show or something like that for bodybuilding. Yeah. I think the 500 grams of protein too. I was thinking about that. That's probably like a little overboard.
I was gonna say I barely eat 500 grams of carbs.
Yeah, I'm probably closer to 400, but to be optimal, I believe, and I'll have to go back and fact check myself. I'll make a Gainz podcast post about this, but I believe you want to stay somewhere around 3 grams of carbohydrates per pound of body weight when you're bulking. I believe it's something like that for hypertrophy.
I mean, that sounds pretty like a good start at least. Yeah. Like, I mean, that seems pretty ideal. I mean, that's like what I'm at right now too, and I'm trying to gain weight. Yeah. Because I'm at like, but I'm a little bit under 3 grams per. I'm like 209 right now, and I eat about, I'd say about 500 grams every day.
Nice.
But typically though, I set it up whereas I allow more fats too. So maybe if like we're talking like a higher carbohydrates than fats, like maybe like a moderate to low fats, then I'd say that's probably about right. Because typically a lot of people will say you don't need too much fats, but hey, I like my fats, baby. Let's get it.
Yeah, me too. I know, yeah. I'm not sure what the I'd have to go back and look because like I've just been kind of like free balling it to be honest with you. Like last year for the most part, what I do is like,
dude, I know you work from home, but oh my goodness.
I'm just like, yeah, that probably looks like 4 ounces of ground beef. I'm cool with that. We'll throw some like black beans on that. I'll have like a tall glass of chocolate milk.
You said that last episode. You're pretty much focused on intuitive eating right now, and that's totally fine. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as long as you knew where to start and you've done it for a while, then like that's I'm pretty sure we've said it multiple times. That's like the goal for our viewers and listeners. It's like, if you can scale for a whole year, get a sense of idea of like what things look like and weigh and proportion, then go for it. Believe me, most of the time you're not going to have a scale with you. That's just life. Like if you go out of your home and work, unless you're bodybuilding, like if you're a competitor, that's the only time you carry a scale with you. If not, most of the time you probably already eat your own meals anyways, and you've probably scaled them out before. So, but yeah, for me, I kind of want to go over like how I feel when it comes to like, so depends. So let's just say I'll keep it like current, and this is like talking about how I feel. I also work out after work. I'd say an hour and a half to 2 hours after work. So right now it's not really ideal. There's always been a love of working out in the morning before work. So once we get a home and like I have a home gym, I'd say it's going to be a little bit different on what my views would be like when it comes to training, because most likely I'll be training in the morning. I just like to do it. I think I love like getting my day on a workout, like starting a workout. I know Roman does it right now most of the time or sometimes, which is awesome. But anyway, so typically like I'll wait like an hour and a half to 2 hours. And like let's just say, I think it was this Monday or Tuesday, Sam made some homemade tres leches cake. So, and like I'm saying, that's why I wanted to tell you the precursors. I go through a whole day work. I go through a whole lot of, chores, activities before I work out. So, and we're talking, I haven't slept, 10 plus hours. So we're talking like 10 hours in the day, 11 hours in the day. So a lot of factors can go in, and let's just never blame just the meal beforehand. So I did it 2 days in a row. I pretty much ate a meal, 2 same meals, like pretty much. And I did it purposely for this like episode. So I did like 2 scoops of protein in a protein shake with almond milk, a banana, and a little bit of powdered peanut butter. So I did that, and homemade tres leches cake, which tres leches cake is, it's 3 milks. So it's sweetened condensed, whole milk, and evaporated milk. In a sponge cake with whipped cream. So I did that for the 2 days, and I don't know if it's because it was like the Tuesday, which was yesterday. I did eat the meal, I'd say fairly closer to the workout, and it made me feel a little bit better than the Monday workout, because I did eat the Monday because I was probably a little bit hungrier, or I didn't eat as much throughout the day, like Roman was saying, like trying to fill in the gaps. I did eat like that meal like 30 to 40 minutes before working out. So we're talking like maybe an hour and a half before working out. So, and that has a lot of sugar in it with the cake and whatnot. So I did intake probably a good amount of sugar, but I realized that like closer to the workout, I felt a little bit better. But see, the thing is, like I said, the precursors could have been there. Like, hey, Sunday to Monday, maybe I didn't get a lot of sleep because I usually wake up typically earlier on a Monday than it would be Saturday and Sunday. So maybe I lost an hour of sleep trying to get back in the work week. Maybe I did quite a few things to make me more tired. So like Roman was saying, like maybe it's going to affect some people differently, but you don't notice it too much. So I could say like the Tuesday workout was better, but like I said, I can't totally blame it on the meal. So I did kind of write down like a peer review study on Google Scholar that I did write down to talk about. I'm going to generalize it since we only have about like 4 minutes in the tank anyways. So Metabolism, Clinical, and Experimental peer review, they did a study on like pre-exercise ingestion of meals of moderate and high glycemic indexes. The food choices were like puffed rice, breakfast cereals, or rolled oats. So not really so much like a sugar digestive food, but a pretty high to moderate amount of carbohydrates, like Roman was saying earlier. And it was at about 75 grams of carbs. And it was 6 male volunteers. And on the other side of things, they did a partial study of just 300 milliliters of water and no carbs. So the one with the carbs, they had the water and carbs. The other controlled group had just water. And it was digested 45 minutes before they performed cycling exercises. They did take blood samples and muscle biopsies, but when they came to the conclusion, they didn't really have statistics out on the conclusion, but it did say they did have a little bit of a higher glycemic response of the start of the exercise with the high glycemic index meal than the control group, which only just had the water. So I wonder if I can dig deeper in that peer review and kind of give more statistics. But since I didn't have it, and I don't know if it's probably because I don't have like a full license to Google Scholar, I'm pretty sure it's probably because that's why. But I couldn't see the whole review. But yeah, that's what I wanted to throw out there. Roman, anything else you want to talk to before we end this out, buddy?
Yeah, no. Hopefully I didn't give the impression that like carbohydrates are essentially like the fuel source of choice for bodybuilders. So I believe as long as you're getting like your prerequisite fats in, then like carbohydrates is like the next go-to, because like obviously protein is king for bodybuilders. So it's just like, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Like that is being shown like time and time again to be a tried and true fact. I went over like really quickly in a post this morning that I try to stay between a range of like 0.8 grams to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. There's some good evidence to suggest like that's kind of like the sweet spot or like the optimal zone. Anything above that, there's like some niche examples of like maybe it makes sense like when you're like in contest prep or cutting for like a photo shoot or something like that you want to be a little higher than that. But other than that, it's there's various like conversion processes that's going to turn that into like some other like fuel substrate, for example.
I like how you said sweet spot. That was pretty like a quick pun to the title of this.
Yeah. But okay, so carbs are obviously good. My point was trying to say that like the pre-workout meal may be like hyped up a little bit, unless like that's built in. Like so if you build into like, it sounds like you were like as like a short mini experiment, you're building in like your pre-workout meal to be like a little higher on the carb side. Like that totally makes sense. Like I'm not saying like that doesn't make sense. Like totally, if that works for you and like you feel like there's a performance benefit, keep doing it. Don't like, I may have like misspoken. No, I just think that if your carbohydrates are like relatively well spread out throughout the rest of the day, and like the times where you're like less active, you take a little bit of like your carbohydrates from that meal. So let's say like you're less active at night, you usually would take like 2 cups of rice. Like you take like a cup and a half, or you take 1 cup of rice, and then you take that cup of rice and you split it over like 2 meals. So you add like half of your half there, just as like a quick example. I personally think that personally as a lifter, I wouldn't stop having like a pre-workout meal. Do I always get it in? Am I like always able to before? No, of course not. And like, do I still work out and is it still fine? Yeah, of course. But if I can like have, something like in some ways it's kind of like part of like the lifting ritual. It's maybe part of what like could be called like bro science, for example. I think there is some evidence to suggest, or some reason I should say, to suggest that after you consume a meal, about 30 minutes after you consume the meal, the food has like made its way like into the stomach, and it's like starting to pass into the duodenum in the digestive tract, where the process of nutrient absorption begins. So the stomach is essentially responsible for breaking the food down and then pushing that food out into the duodenum, which then enters like the intestinal tract. And it's the villi in your intestinal tract that start to draw up the nutrients, the proteins, the fats, the carbohydrates, the micronutrients. So the macros as well as the micros, and then they start to go to their respective locations. The carbohydrates going to the liver, and then throughout the bloodstream, for example, the amino acids from the breakdown of proteins, pretty much throughout the body. Fats kind of go wherever the hell they want. They jump onto the bloodstream. They're like, woo, let's go. Yeah, I don't want to make the impression that like if you have a ritual of having like a pre-workout meal like religiously before the workout because you've always felt like it helps your workout, like keep on doing that. No issues with doing that.
Yeah, and then before we close this out, if you want to learn more about like digestion and like sugars and like performance, Dr. James Dinick, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, D-I-N-I-C, or Dinick, might be like an Italian last name. Roman, you might follow him, but he posts like some pretty good information when it comes to like simple digestion and like simple like some simple information posts that if you're looking to get healthier, a little bit more fitnessy to your goals and whatnot, or just learn a little bit more, just follow him on Instagram. It's just that full name, Dr. James Dinick, D-I-N-I-C. And pretty much like the one post he just did about like, I know we're not going to get into it, but like, excessive insulin levels. He talks about that. What are like the risk, what goes on? What are the risk factors after that? So thanks guys for watching episode 68 or listening. We are on all platforms, video and audio. Please like us on Instagram. We have personal accounts that we attach to like almost every post. If you want to DM us, go ahead and like the channel on YouTube. Go ahead and subscribe to Roman's channel if you're hopping on mine to watch the Gainz podcast. And we'll see you guys on that next one. Peace.